I tell people all the time, don't ever let your children leave without telling them how much you love them, because you don't ever know that it might be the last time that you see them again.
I was laying out by the pool and Mom needed some shock to clean it for Labor Day. I just threw something on and went uptown. I was just going down the road listening to music. I don't remember anything after that.
Call units 204, 206, car 4 respond to an MBA. Jonesboro at Sandal, MBA.
That area right there has the potential for being a pretty bad accident. They send our truck and then they send the truck with extrication tools on it. It was head on. The motor was pushed back up against the firewall. The dash had rolled down onto her legs and had her pinned along with the steering wheel.
Slightly, I remember looking down and I thought my legs weren't there. Like, I don't know if I was just in shock or what, and that's all I remember.
The only thing that she was saying was, am I gonna die? Am I gonna die? That's when you just want to try to reach down and manually push the dash up and get them out and, take off with them, but that's not how it works.
He was controlling the scene very well. He was telling me what we had, and at that time we put a C-collar on her, which protects her neck in case she had a neck fracture. Well, we knew both of her arms were fractured, but as far as legs, we didn't know at the time because the dash was sitting on her.
When they tell us that extrication is needed, we pretty much know that it's a bad wreck. Once we determine that the vehicle is stable, then we decide what type of tools that we need in order to remove the victim from the car.
I was out of state on a trip, and at the time I got a phone call to let me know that my daughter was involved in an accident.
I answered the phone, and on the other line it was a young man, and he said, "Is this Miss Parker?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Your daughter's been in a really bad car accident," which I wish something like this on nobody.
My heart just dropped, not being able to be there and not knowing what was going on. Because I'm retired from the police department over in Monroe, I knew a lot of the police officers and EMS, so I happened to know the state trooper that actually was on scene, so he advised me that they were trying to cut her from the car at that time.
When I got there, I started running, to get to her, and one of the police officers stopped me and he said, "We can't let you, go to where she's at right now because we're trying to get her out of the car."
We removed the door from the vehicle after we done our size up so we could get entry. And then once we got entry, then we were able to roll the dash using a ram to move the dash away from Kaitlyn so we can be able to get her out. From the time we rolled up on the scene, time we got Kaitlyn out, approximately 10 minutes.
Due to multiple fractures, it was hard to stick an IV in her arm. And I elected to have her flown from scene so she could get the trauma one care that she needed instead of spending time here local and get transferred later.
Based out of Ruston, we're able to reach out to those rural areas around that, and for someone who is ill or injured, sometimes too long a distance for an ambulance, or they're too ill or injured for that particular crew.
Just happened to be where they just airlifted out and they were able to come straight to the scene. Within 5 minutes, they were there on the scene.
You want to be very efficient and move as quickly as you can, yet thorough. So our goal is always less than 10 minutes to get the patient assessed, transferred from the ground unit onto our aircraft and leaving the scene.
When you're in a trauma center, the trauma center has everything that you need, especially a level 1 trauma center, for any kind of injury, at any time, on any day, at any hour.
So they kind of give us an idea on the radio first, what we've got coming in so we can prepare whether they need to be in our code room or if they can go to a regular monitored bed.
So either the flight nurse or the flight medic will call, report, and let them know what we have, how far out, if we need any assistance. And then once we get there, UPD officer meets us and we transport the patient downstairs to the trauma room.
Well, once we get her in the room, we go on the monitor and get her pressure, we get some labs. We want to just get a basic assessment of her, every limb was obviously deformed. We knew with as many injuries she had, we wanted to get her pressure, get her labs, and get to the CAT scan pretty quickly to see what else was going on internally.
I ran into one of the doctors in the hall and I said, my daughter was in an accident. I said, I just want to see her just for a second. It was the scariest thing because when I walked back there was just, people everywhere, and she was laying on the x-ray table. And I remember just holding her head back and looking and saying, am I gonna die, Mom? And I said, no, you are not gonna die. And I remember I could not focus on anything but her head. I didn't want to look anywhere because I did not know her injuries. I knew it was bad. So I grabbed her little face and I just started praying for her. And I told her, I said, God is going to take care of you. You're going to be okay.
She had fractures, basically all her limbs, upper extremity, right humerus, left forearm, femur, tibias. So she had a substantial number of broken bones.
These fractures are very painful, so she required sedation and pain medication, but also we had to be careful to give appropriate doses so that we didn't simply put her to sleep and impair her ability to breathe.
When I got to the hospital, at least I felt more secure as far as knowing I was there then. We felt blessed that she was still with us. Dr. Morandi, he informed us that she may have nerve damage to her right arm. And he was advised me as far as plates and rods that he was going to be putting into Kaitlyn's arms and legs.
It was a series of surgeries, and the idea is that, we need to think about how the patient is going to respond. It's like you break several glasses, you can't put them all together all at once. You need to go step by step. You need to repair one at a time.
We thought that she was doing okay when she went in to have the third surgery, and we were waiting in the room for her to come back in, and the doctor met us and said there was complications.
A common phenomenon that occurs after you've had one operation and then another, and then you go in for maybe a third operation, is that the body tends to overreact to the operation, and her lungs became heavy with water and she became difficult to ventilate.
As a mom, you want to fix everything, and I couldn't fix anything.
My heart just dropped, seeing her in that sedated state on a ventilator, and that's my baby.
Whenever you're dealing with parents of an injured child, it's an extraordinary circumstance. So it's important to be sensitive to that and also to try to relate to the parents as a parent so that they can feel and recognize that you care for their child like you would care for your own.
He just put his arms around me and he said, your daughter is going to grow up to be a young woman, get married, have children, and she is going to live and she is going to be okay.
In my heart, I was aching, but I knew that we could get her through.
You can't imagine laying there with a tube in your mouth and you can't communicate. And so it's a big thing to try to keep patients sedated and, have their pain controlled.
Both of my arms had like cast-looking things on them, like splints, and then both of my legs did too. Everything was just so emotional and just not good.
As young adults, they just don't understand why this is taking so long, or why did this happen to me, or, and you just have to encourage them and let them know, that it's going to get better.
There was one particular time that Robert had already gotten off work, and he stayed with her until I was able to get to her.
He got off at 7 in the morning. He stayed till like 10 o'clock in the morning with Kaitlyn because she had a bad night. Knowing that somebody would do that, that's from the heart.
We have a team approach where people are all striving to do their very best, and really doing it with a compassion and a care that I found and do find extraordinary on a daily basis.
The next thing I remember is just being in the bed and being worried about my arm and my hand because I couldn't feel it.
She was crying. She was so upset because she couldn't feel her hand. And nobody could, get her to stop crying. And Dr. Owens gets a chair, pulls it up to the bed, and started telling her some things that he had went through in his life. And just, hey, you're gonna be okay.
The technical endeavors of critical care and trauma surgery are intellectually stimulating. But what's really morally, emotionally, and spiritually rewarding is the personal contact, the family, the patients, and then seeing them through the whole journey. The team was what it took to get her through her injuries, and not only to simply fix the breaks, but also then work on the rehabilitation process and the emotional healing that's a part of coming through a traumatic event.
Sometimes that still goes through my mind, why did this happen to me? What did I do wrong? But, God has a plan for everything, and I think I got a second chance.
2 or 3 weeks, I think, after she was discharged, there was a question that her personal doctor had about how her hand was doing and how the nerve regeneration was going. So I took an afternoon and drove out to Monroe and to see her dressed in her regular clothes instead of a hospital gown, smiling instead of having the feeling and the face of pain, was spiritually uplifting for me.
I couldn't walk at all when I first got there, and now I can walk. I can't run yet. And then with my hand, my whole arm was bended where I couldn't even put it straight, and now I can do it straight. So I'm getting there.
If you don't believe in miracles, look at Kaitlyn, because the good Lord had everything lined up for her that day.
God had his hand in everything. From the time that Kaitlyn had the accident to the time she's back home with us. And we thank everybody that took part and helped Kaitlyn, and every one of them are heroes to us.
I'm not a hero. This is just what I do. This is what I enjoy. I didn't do it to get any awards or accolades, but it really feels good to know that somebody thought of you enough.
When they're that injured, to be a part of helping them get back to their normal lifestyle, it's amazing.
When the patient needs the doctor has to be there. So trauma centers absolutely save lives because of the way they're designed.
She would not be alive today if LSU wouldn't have been there for us. I'll never be able to repay them for what they've done. They saved my baby's life.